the power continues to become more centralized in Washington, D.C., and with each new administration, the people become less free. Most Americans see themselves as stuck between two evils.
And the Constitution is being raped because of the fact that liberty is no longer respected by our officials in government.
Liberty works, and liberty is right. The morally correct answer is what works the best. My very first official act will be to bring the troops home.
Congress hasn't declared war since 1941. And yet, the American military has been engaged in conflicts around the world. If you're not prepared to declare war, then maybe it's not a war you want to fight.
Well, the federal government shouldn't be involved in your daily life at all, really. It doesn't have any role there. It's too far away from you and too big.
The big government, with its power, with its special interests, with money from lobbyists, it says we're going to let the big stores stay open, and their profits have skyrocketed through this.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to the problem. Government is the problem.
Private corporations sponsoring debates.
Like Anheuser-Busch was a sponsor in 2016.
Powerful interests have control over the process.
You just want to make a news clip or you want to talk?
And she's the only one that was on the street marching for Black Lives Matter. She's the only one who really cares.
The Cleveland Police Department is trying to run us off right now.
I would be the only true choice on stage, and they know it, and that's why they're keeping me off.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Let me go ahead and bring everybody in here while I make some introductions. I am Libertarian Dave. I'm the host of this podcast. For those of you that don't know, I am a retired military veteran of 25 years. I've been a Libertarian since 2012. What do I do with my card? I thought I had my card. Oh, here it is. A card-carrying member of the Libertarian Party, gold member, as a matter of fact, since 2016. And I'm here with, first of all, one of our guests, The Evolve. He is a podcaster as well. Well, no, he's a reaction. He does hip-hop reactions. Check out his YouTube channel, The Evolve. He talks a lot about Eminem and stuff. He's also the CEO of a nonprofit here in El Paso, Texas, which deals with after-school programs for youth and sports and stuff for youth. Yes, Benzino, he does have after-school programs. Probably close to 1,000 people, 1,000 families he supports here in El Paso. And then we have our guest of honor here, Kerry Douglas McKennon. He's a graduate from Texas Tech. He's a U.S. Navy veteran. That's why I have my U.S. Marine teacup here. And he's been a Libertarian, I think, since 2013. He's ran for lieutenant governor before and currently running against John Cornyn and MJ Hager for U.S. Senate. So I think most of my audience knows The Evolve. So we'll go ahead and let Kerry, if you want to say a few words.
Oh, yeah. Well, I am running because I believe that our liberties are eroding before our eyes, and our natural rights that we use the Constitution as a restraining order to go to court over are being threatened or infringed upon as the government grows. And it's neither party cares really about our individual liberties. And so that's why I chose to run, and that's why I'm running, and that's why I've run in the past. And because it hasn't gotten better, I will continue to run until either we do not have the liberty to run, at least we still have that, even though we have to pay a filing fee this year, or they basically stop me from doing it, which I guess, it's the government. They could stop me from doing anything if they choose, I guess.
It definitely seems that way in this pandemic. So Whenever I get a fellow libertarian on here, because I always find the questions to be a little bit different. The first question I always like to ask is, what is a libertarian?
It's a person who values liberty above all else. And because they do so, that gives them the freedom of and from religion of their choice. Gives them freedom to protect themselves by any means necessary. That gives them the freedom to not only raise their children, have their children, but those opportunities that would not be hindered by the government as they are now, for them to be able to give their children the best education possible and feed and clothe them and house them in the best manner possible. Now, that doesn't mean that that liberty is more important than your family or your loved ones or your friends, but because if you're putting liberty in the forefront, it allows you to create a much better life for your family, if that's what you're fighting for, because you want them to have as much liberty in their life as they can when they grow up.
Yes, definitely. So the Evolve here, whose phone is ringing, I think.
Yep, got it.
They're asking if he personally knows me. You know, that's what that is. They're saying, I can't believe Evolve that you actually get to meet Kerry McKennon. That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Right.
So I'll ask the first question for the Evolve, because I know all of his viewers would like to know: are you an Eminem fan?
Oh, me? Yes, I am.
Is Kerry an Eminem fan?
Oh, is Kerry an Eminem fan? Oh, okay.
Well, only if you find the real Slim Shady, and we know if you're a real Eminem fan or not.
Good answer. How long? I know that Kerry had said that you're going to keep running until you can't. Is this your first time? How many times have you ran thus far?
In 2014, I ran for the Texas House and the Texas Senate. There was a special election for the Texas Senate, and it happened 2.5 weeks in the middle of my Texas House race. In 2016, I got a little bit too big for my britches, and because I was an officer for Outright Libertarians, which is the gender and sexual minorities caucus of the Libertarian Party, or what some people would say the LGBTQ caucus of the Libertarian Party, I put my hat in the ring for VP in 2016, only because it would allow for some of those issues that were near and dear to that caucus's part to be heard on that national stage. And then in 2018, I ran for lieutenant governor of the great state of Texas. And now I've been blessed that the party still considers me viable and is a viable candidate to run for senator.
Got it. Okay. I see. Yeah, but right back to you there, Dave.
Okay. Yeah, I had some other questions I was going to ask you. I have a few other things I want to talk about. So we're in El Paso, and El Paso is, we're a border town. So I would like, there's a couple of things that I think are near and dear to El Pasoans' hearts that I'd like you to comment on. The first would be immigration. I mean, we're right on the border here, so we have a very multicultural community, we like to call it. I mean, our economy thrives off of Fort Bliss and the border. So as a senator, what kind of immigration policies would you be looking at, putting forward to the federal government?
So I think one of the things that we can do to help with our immigration system is to end the war on drugs, because I think it will initially eliminate, or at least alleviate, some of the violence that is happening in many immigrant home countries, especially those that are south of the border. And this will, by doing this, we won't have as many people, hopefully, or the reasons that they're seeking asylum will not be the same as they are now. Now, that doesn't mean just by ending the war on drugs that you're going to get rid of the drug cartels, because that would just be a false narrative, correct? But that is one initial thing that we can do. The other thing we can do is we can make sure that instead of spending money on a wall, we can actually, if we actually even had that money to spend, but using that money to make sure that those individuals that are seeking asylum or that are seeking to immigrate to this country, that the process is faster. Right now, individuals will be stuck sometimes up to 3+ years before they're ever even go before a judge or a caseworker. And I think what we can do is we can streamline the immigration process. Back in the 70s, when we had a farm on the Panhandle, we had immigrants that came and worked all the time, and most of the individuals that came to work were men, and they went back to their home country. Now, because we have changed our immigration policy, individuals are not having that work visa for a different type of skilled labor, which is manual skilled labor. And those individuals could come over and work. We could change that policy to have a better guest worker program so that they could come and work. They're going to spend money while they're here. They're going to be paying, I know libertarians hate to hear this, they're going to be paying sales tax and different taxes while they're here, and they'll be going back. But when we changed our policy some time ago, it wasn't as easy for someone to come across the border and work and go home to their family. So they ended up taking that chance of bringing their whole family here because they might not be able to get back and see their family.
Yeah, and I know I've seen I've seen the what they do, like the asylum seekers, when we had the big mass of them months ago that came up. They just put up a big giant tent. And then thankfully they had a bunch of air conditioners plugged into it, but it was just a big giant tent at the Border Patrol headquarters, which is about 5 miles away from me here. And yeah, they just had them all crammed into that tent. The tent's gone now. I think they've shifted them somewhere else, but they have these detention centers. So basically you come across the border seeking asylum and they throw you in jail. You know, it's sad. You know, my grandfather here.
It cost us about $800 on an average per day to house and feed and clothe and medical for every single individual that's detained right now. And so if you figure that that's not a cost that is adding up, when you could simply just do a simple guest workers program where they sign the sheet, you get where they're going. It's pretty simple. You know, I'm going to go work at the gym, and I'm going to go work at the gym in Petersburg, Texas. Petersburg, Texas, is where I live. After that, much like you have day workers in El Paso and Brownsville, and even over in San Diego and Tijuana, all of those different places you have. Why is it so easy for a day worker to go across and work and go back? Why can't we have that same type of thing into? Because I can guarantee it'd be a lot cheaper than spending $789. I think it's $89 or $78, something like that, a day per immigrant that is being housed.
You could pay them. Most people don't even get paid that much money.
Well, I can tell you that.
I just think that you know, with the I think with the I guess when I look at immigration and whatnot, I know that we spend a lot of talks on far as the wall and the security and far as the border and whatnot, but I feel that what we do internally is really the big focus. That's where a lot of people are kind of are we froze right now, Dave? Am I froze?
You're froze.
Just you. We can still hear you, but your face is froze.
Yeah,
you look like you're me. All right, you can see my picture. Yeah, like I'm blowing a kiss. No, but like, I'll fix it now. I think whenever I get on the charger here, but I think it's what we do internally. A lot of people, I guess, people's biggest problems with immigration and as far as the immigrants is how much we give and do as far as taxpayers have to pay for, far as with their welfare and far as with them. A lot of people feel, hey, they're taking jobs and we are supporting them, and that comes from our taxes and whatnot. So I don't know. I feel that a better system or doing away with some stuff or what we're doing internally, as far as when they get over here, that should be a bigger focus. I mean, because I think a lot of people would be okay with our country. I mean, that's how we grow our economy. That's how we grow, as a society anyway, so many different types of people. But it's kind of what we're doing when they get over here and what we've got to pay for. And that's something that needs to be changed as far as internally. And I'm going to fix this.
Well, I don't know that you're going to necessarily be able to change in regards to the public school system, where all children are supposed to be in some type of school program. Do immigrant children that come here, do they put a strain on our education system? I think based on how our education system is being run right now and the dysfunctionality that is sometimes in that system, with the amount of money that is spent on administration as opposed to what is spent on students and teachers and supplies, I think that the answer to that would probably be yes. But
really, that comes right back to, if we weren't funding the schools with taxpayer money, if the parents were paying for the schools, then it wouldn't matter whether they were immigrant children or not. They're paying their own way anyways. The problem is the public school system. There's little accountability on where your funds are going to, for one, and then it's free school, as they call it. It's libertarians. There's no such thing as a free lunch, but
well, that's true. And don't get me wrong, if I could get rid of all taxes and all I had to do was pay school taxes, that school tax is on the low end of my spectrum, and the only reason is because when school has to be paid for by parents, and I'm not saying that parents shouldn't do that, but what I'm saying is when parents have to do that, the children that are hurt are poor children.
Could be.
And that's assuming that you still have the Johnson Act, where actual churches and places of worship and they can't actually do charity work like they could before that. So if you have that, it makes it much more difficult to sell that you want to end school tax. It's much easier to sell ending property tax. If you're talking about in a sales position, selling something to get people to come and vote for libertarians. With that being said, libertarians are not saying that just because parents would be paying for school that we don't want children to get an education, because we do.
Mm-hmm.
Just when we talk about ending school, if the government didn't provide school breakfast and school lunch, it's not that we want children to go hungry. We just don't think that the government does the best job of doing that. Any of those programs, is the government the one that's doing the best by those individuals?
Yeah, that's the problem I have, is just that the there has to be a better way. That's just the way I see it. Private charity or something. It's just the government is just so incompetent and so prone to corruption, especially now. It's so. But I agree with you 100%. Like defunding the public school system would definitely be low on my list. I honestly think that we should defund the federal Department of Education, like Joe Jorgensen's talked about. But I think all that should just be pushed at the state level. Then the state departments of education could compete with each other. Is that something that you would support?
I definitely support ending the Department of Education, but I want to make sure that we don't get into a situation where we have to have another Brown versus the Board of Education, simply because we end up having local school choice. And those local school choices end up making it to where it is specifically used, school choice is specifically used in a bigoted way because the biggest divide in this country is not is about class, right? It's about the rich and the poor. That's the biggest divide in this country. And to make sure that we are not widening that divide as libertarians, it makes us seem, and it makes us seem that we don't care and we don't have compassion. And libertarians are the far from not having compassion.
Yeah, I agree 100. I mean, I try to express that. This was my first year being active. I went to LP National. I went to LP Texas. The national convention and the state conventions. And I tell you, I have never, outside of church, I have never seen a more giving or accepting community as I have when you get around a bunch of libertarians. We have our own little bickers and stuff, like any political party. But I mean, at the end of the day, it is just, it's like a judgment-free zone. It's awesome. It's beautiful. It really is. And as far as like compassion and charity, I mean, we libertarians live our motto about volunteerism and stuff and charity. I mean, we do. I've never seen people just, open their wallets for total strangers just because they're, running for office. I mean, your entire campaign, I guarantee you, has just been funded by private citizens, libertarians that want to support you in your run for U.S. Senate. There's no corporations going to fund you. There, no lobbyist or anything. So, I mean, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, and other than an actual caucus, that's a libertarian caucus, we have not received, which was less than $250. We have not received any PAC money, really.
Yeah, or even if it's like the Libertarian PAC, I mean, all the money that PAC receives is from libertarians, and like the caucus, all those monies are received from libertarians. So it's just a group. A caucus is a group of people within a political party that share the same interest, as we was talking about earlier, for those of you who don't know. So it's just like different groups within a party will form caucuses, and then you collect money, and the caucus will support candidates that support that caucus's views within the party. So like we have a Mises caucus, which Mises is an economist, right? Yeah. So that type of economic idealism within the party gets supported by that caucus. So,
and it depends on their tax status as well. Some of the caucuses cannot endorse nor give money directly toward candidates. Others can. It all depends on their tax status.
Ah, okay. So I don't know if you caught all that about the education there, Evolve. Welcome back, by the way. Are you froze up again?
Yeah, I started to catch some of the end. I was trying to reboot.
I thought you were froze up there again.
No, can you hear me well?
Here's a perfect.
No, I don't think so. No,
well, I'll just give you a perfect example. If you'll look at at one point in time, when we were talking about individuals, children being fed and being fed at school,
Mm-hmm.
the Black Panthers did a much better job of feeding children a hot breakfast before they went to school and a lunch to go to school than the government school actually did. It was much more nutritious, and it was just a volunteer status. It was we can do better by our children.
Yep, and it's proven all the time. Private charity is just way more efficient, and it feels good to give to private charity.
You're talking about taking school lunch out. I'm sorry, I didn't get that last part. Are you talking about taking school lunch out?
No, what I was saying was that it's not that we want children to go hungry and we want to end school lunches or school breakfast. The question is, does the government do a good job of doing that? Or can it be done better?
Even if that tax money was just shifted to a private, I think even if it was just, if they just took the tax money and shifted it to a private agency and just got it out of the government's hands, then I think it would be more efficiently used, and it would be better to track.
I don't know. Besides the nutrition, I think that's one of the areas that government do a good job far as if we're talking about schools and whatnot. If we're talking about lunches and providing that's
we were kind of on
that is one of the flaws of school, of education. That's actually one of the, I mean, even their standards as far as trying to move towards a more nutritional format and kind of pivot towards that. But that's just me. With regards to school lunches, I mean, that's something.
The problem with the school lunch thing is, with government in control of it, now you have the food lobby that comes in and won't allow them to take the sugary stuff out of the breakfasts and stuff. They won't allow it, because the food lobby is what's controlling the government now. And so that's what I'm saying. We shifted it to a private charity that was handling school lunches. Then we could have a more nutritious lunch, because those food lobbies wouldn't have any control. Maybe they would try, but if we saw that, then we would, raise a red flag about it. With the government, it's like, oh, there's nothing we can do. They just take our money and throw it around. So
it's not that the school doesn't do a good job, and they have gotten more nutritious in probably the last 6 years. Michelle Obama did a much better thing to talk about nutrition in school lunches. She brought that to the forefront, and good for her.
She did.
The thing
is, a lot more though.
Yes. The good thing is when you're talking about something that is a good thing. Okay, school breakfast and school lunch is a good thing that they do at school. Right? The question is, using that as an example of something that is good, are they doing better than a private entity could do? Or are they doing better than a charitable entity could do?
Yeah.
And if we can look at something that is
and that's where again I'm not understanding. And that's one thing. And with regards to school lunches, and me being an educator, and teaching second grade for a few years, I'm not I see that question, but I'm not sure what a private entity would do different that this. I mean, because they're making sure every kid gets served. I mean, even through your breaks and everything. I mean, you do have a choice. I mean, with regards to lunch and food, it just seems like that's something that the school system actually take serious. I mean, because law requires them to, but I'm not sure what you'd be looking for and what you feel that, or what giving it over to a private entity or a charitable. I mean, even if an organization like mine, I mean, if we took hold of I think we would do pretty much the same thing. We would make sure that every kid, I mean, if that was our responsibility, we would make sure every kid gets the breakfast and lunch. And are we saying that the private entities or the charitable, they would do better because they have a more flexible as far as food and nutrition, or what?
Well, they have less. Go ahead,
they have less governmental control on what they can actually do. And the thing is if we look at something as simple as that, I'm not advocating for getting rid of school lunches or school breakfast by any means. Okay. That's not what I'm asking.
Oh, okay. I thought that's what we're talking about. Okay.
What I'm saying is if we look at something such as that, something that at this moment the government is doing a pretty good job of. You know, they're actually using taxpayer dollars to do something that they said they were going to do, and they're doing a decent job of it. The question is, if we look at something like that, is there still corruption there? Okay, or mismanagement, whichever way you want to look at it, and or could it be done better by a charitable organization or a private entity? And if we can see that there's even a possibility that could happen with something that is working for the good of children, you know.
Yeah, we have a question from the audience. If y'all ready to move on from the education system,
I'll just say that means that we can look past the school lunches and say we can definitely do it in other places for sure.
That's another reason why I think it should be the education thing should be down at the state level, because then the states could try these different things and see what works best. You know, it becomes you got 50 competitors out there trying to see who can do education better. You know, so at least dropping the Department of Education down to the state level, I think would be terrific. Nobody wants to be the worst state in the union on education, you know. So. But Penny Lane, she's got Penny Lane. I like that. Must be a Beatles fan. She asked the question: what, if anything, do you plan to do to reform the criminal justice system?
So the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to end qualified immunity. And so basically that means that just right now you are automatically not going to be charged as a police officer with something unless it is exactly the same way the case is from another case. So if you have a case to where you had 1,000 pounds of marijuana and the next case was 1,000 pills of methamphetamines, you're going to, and the police officer violated your rights in some way, he's going to claim qualified immunity because you had that crime there, and it can't be considered the same as something else. Okay, that's making it really simple in the way that it works. We're also going to look at, when we end the war on drugs, we're going to retro all of those sentences and judge times and remove off of people's records for possession or trafficking. Now, if you did violence while you were doing that, we can't remove the fact that you assaulted somebody or that you robbed somebody or that you killed somebody or raped somebody, right? Those will still be there. But if you're serving 60 years and you're serving 20 years for drug possession and you're serving 40 years for rape, well, you're now going to just be serving the 40 years for rape.
Yeah.
You know, now you might have got to. We're also going to look at why is it different within our criminal justice reform program, especially in our court systems, that individuals of color receive much heavier sentences than individuals that are Caucasian.
That
and
well, that goes right. It's really simple. It's two words: institutional racism. And and I explain this to people, but I'd be happy to go over it real quickly. Institutional racism, it's not anything you can put a finger on. It's not saying that the people within the institution are racist. It's the institution itself that's racist. So it's the same reason why the government can't be charitable, because the government doesn't have a heart. It's a whole bunch of individual hearts, but together they don't have a heart. And it's the same thing with institutional racism. Everybody in the institution may not be racist, but the institution itself is racist. And that's how our criminal justice system is built right now.
True. And there's, limited liability insurance will help alleviate some of that, because then it won't be self-policing. There won't be an internal investigation. Those investigations will happen outside, and you'll either be priced out of the market through limited liability insurance, or you won't.
Yep.
And you have to have a database. There has to be a police database where you can't just do something horrible in El Paso, Texas, and then because there's no database like there is for doctors or lawyers or nurses or pharmacists, that you can just go over here and now get a job over in Brownfield, Texas.
Yeah. Yeah. But I agree. I think every police officer should be carrying insurance. Yeah, I got your back, man. I kept trying, but it kept just showing.
I've been here. I don't know why I was black screen.
It was just, but we got you now.
And something that we have to make sure that happens, that, look, cops do a really hard job. Okay? They do a really hard job. Part of the problem is that they don't often have the self-awareness to remove the bad apples from their bunch. And there is not the training that they need, especially training in regards to mental health, transgender individuals, often individuals of color, depending on places that they're working. If you're working in El Paso, Texas, you will probably come in contact with someone who speaks Spanish or someone who is of Hispanic origin much more than you will in Montana. Not that there's not Hispanics in Montana, because there are, but your likelihood is, the training needs to be there.
Mm-hmm. The thing is that you're absolutely right. They're training them. They're training them on how to use more force, how to take control of situations, and they're not training them how to de-escalate. And there's no de-escalation training at all. I mean, in the military, I received de-escalation training, but our police officers don't. I know Evolve has some thoughts.
I don't know. I think. And you know what? I hear it all the time, and I guess I can say I guess, but the training, they done had the training. We've been trained. They've been training for 50 years, and I don't. And every year, I know that we hear that, we're gonna work on the training. They need more training. We need, whether it's de-escalation or whether it's or whatever it is. It's always, we always go back to training. It always seems like an out, and then we throw more money for training. It just seemed like, but training without accountability, I think that's one of the biggest things, is that they focus all this attention on training, and all training does is, it builds policing, so it's more policing, but if there's no accountability behind the training, then we're going to keep getting the same results. I mean, they're not held accountable. I mean, stuff like like what Kerry said could, ending that would go towards the accountability and different things like I've said it once before. I mean, when we pay for like these whenever there is a death or a police does something and a family or someone sue, that's not held accountable on that particular police. Is held, I mean, taxpayers end up even paying for that suit and whatnot. But I say accountability behind that training would be, okay, you did that, you hurt this guy, you put this guy in this chokehold, you ended this life, you made this choice, although you had all that training, you still did that, then we're gonna take away from your pension. We're gonna you have to be held accountable a certain percentage from your check for this lawsuit that we're facing. I mean, people, once you're held accountable, to your training, then you'll start thinking twice. You'll start saying, okay, maybe I do want to de-escalate this situation because I don't want to pay for my family, because maybe I'm gonna be a little bit more tedious on how I handle this. You're gonna think twice, but right now it's just training, and there's no reason, there's no reason for them. There's no incentive to most of them know that they're gonna get away with it. I mean, we're here training. We've been here in training for a long time.
I think if you have the limited liability insurance, that is going to cover that court cost. That's who people are going to sue. They're going to sue that individual cop, and when they sue the department, it's going to come. If the judges or the individuals suing the department start saying they want it to come out of the cop's pension fund, like you said, instead of out of the city coffers, there's going to be a lot of, yeah, you're my brother in blue, and I got your back, but I ain't got your back when you're costing my own family to suffer. And with limited liability insurance, they will eventually, I hate to say it, but the bad apples, because we go to that same rhetoric, just like boots on the ground, two things that I hate to say, but I always say them, they end up being priced out of the market. And if your insurance goes to a certain level, you won't be able to be out in the public because no one will want to be your partner because their insurance will go up.
Yeah, so limited liability insurance. What you're saying is like malpractice insurance for doctors, but for police officers.
Yeah,
I don't have no idea. I don't have any idea why that's not mandatory right now. For police officers, that just makes too much sense.
They want to pay for it. The police union, probably they would have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And if the police department within their salary covered that initial cost, like the basic rate is this amount, of whatever it was, and if you got an increase on that because of your behavior or your actions, that's on you. People would definitely, they would strive to de-escalate. They would go back to being protect and serve instead of judge, jury, and executioner, which is what they are now.
Okay.
In many cases.
They even have that same protection, that liability protection for small businesses.
True.
If this is the same Jesus Herrera, who's a buddy of mine, he's right here in El Paso. So this is what I was hoping for. We get some El Pasoans in here to ask you questions, because Kerry is on your ballot in El Paso. So anywhere in Texas, if you're in Texas, then he's your man. So I'm going to get after this here question, then I'm going to ask you about your opponents, just to get you prepared, and just say a little bit about Mr. Cornyn and Miss Hagar. So, but Jesse Herrera here, or Jesus Herrera said, good evening. I have a question for Mr. McKinnon. What's your view on Confederate statues? Take them down or leave them up?
Okay, so look, what a loaded question. I'm just going to tell you, if a Confederate statue is on a location that it has a battle took place, right?
Uh-huh.
Or it's their graveyard, it's their actual grave site, or it's their home, and their family has put that up. Anything that is done like that, I don't care if it's on. I don't care if it stays up or not. If it is up on public lands where taxpayer dollars are having to pay for the upkeep of it, then I would suggest that those cities or those counties or those states, instead of just waiting for them to be torn down, have an auction and sell them to the highest bidder.
Sorry, get an extension cord here.
And put that money into poor neighborhoods within that city or within that county.
Wouldn't that be some poetic irony right there?
Robert E. Lee statue, there'd be tons of individuals out there that would go, well, I'm gonna bid $500,000 or $1 million or $6 million or whatever for that. I think it also becomes more significant when you look at the time frame that those statues were put up.
Mm-hmm.
Many of the statues that were put up after 1949 were done specifically to glorify the South, to move racism forward, to actually keep individuals of color down, and to suppress individuals of color. It was not the same as individual servicemen that were killed, fought for the South, that came back and were put into an actual Confederate graveyard. When they built that, the statue in the City Hall, they built that in 1956. That was specifically done with racist intention.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
I don't think that anybody can change me my thought on that. However, that has to be something that individual cities going to have to decide on for themselves. And as long as there's a difference between a racing history, to the victor goes the story, right? As opposed to leaving something up because you're glorified about it. As long as we still celebrate Columbus Day in this country, and we still don't honor the treaties that we have with indigenous people, don't expect us to change the way that this government reacts to people of color in general.
Wouldn't it be ironic too that, not only if you auctioned off these Confederate statues, these racist monuments or monuments to racism, if you auctioned them off and then you took that money and then you used it in poor and minority neighborhoods, what kind of irony is that? And then, then you could see who the racist was. Like whoever bid the $500,000 on it, be like, oh, you're the racist. Okay, gotcha.
Well, and there are people that I know that collect Civil War memorabilia. They collect it on both sides.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Both Union and Southern Army memorabilia. So I don't know that somebody bidding on it would necessarily be a racist.
Yeah.
But I would say that, for the most part, I think they might not raise as much money as I would hope that they would raise, because most people might be too scared to have their name on that listed as somebody that bid for that Confederate statue.
Right? I wouldn't.
If you look at some of the schools that we have, Some of our schools are going through votes to change their names. There's a lot of people that I know that went to school in the 50s and the 60s, on up through the 80s, who are like, that's my high school. I don't want my high school name to change. I'm proud to be from wherever.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm like, I get that, but at the same time, they're not really, it's still the Mustangs or
Yeah, because I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but even with some of those statues, a lot of it was used for a lot of them, and a lot of people want to keep it up because back then they were used as a reminder and as a intimidation type deal too, and that's why a lot want to keep it up today. Some of them, that's why a lot of them are still standing as a reminder, and a lot of them were built for intimidation factor too. So just something that we don't need, so like times.
I mean, times have changed, and if we really are a country that is a melting pot, and we grow as a culture, and we start to have our own culture here, an American or United States culture, that is a huge melting pot. We have to start having serious conversations about our history, about how far we have come and how far we have not come, right? And the fact that, I'm married to a Native American man, which puts me in a totally different category as far as, that I have to think in different terms than I would have thought of in the past when we're together, depending on where we are in the world. Because I have to think in terms of being an openly gay man and how that draws attention and how people think of that, and the bigotry that goes along with that. Then also the bigotry that goes along with their just being a man of color standing there with me as well.
Yep.
Right.
But I think I think for the most part, I mean, I think the younger generations that are coming up are growing out of that immature mentality, and I think these older people are just dying off. So I am the typical, I guess, privileged person, straight white male. So I have no bigotry against me anywhere. But it's like I was telling the Evolve the other day. I was like, hopefully we will. I think this a lot of it is. I know it's there. I know that both of you have to deal with it. But I don't think it's to the level that our media and our politics like to keep emphasizing to us, because they like to keep forcing that divide upon us. And I think if it wasn't for media and politics, I think when I meet a new black person, or a new gay person, I meet him for the first time. This is what I imagine. I'm thinking, I wonder if he thinks I'm a racist, or I wonder if he thinks I hate gay people. And then on the flip side of that, they're thinking, I wonder if he's a racist, or I wonder if he hates gay people. And I think that mentality from the typical, just standard white heterosexual male is severely propagated by our media and our politics. Not that I'm not saying it don't exist; it absolutely does, and I would never say it don't. Well, hopefully someday I'll say it don't. But I think it's just way more magnified and blown up by media. What do y'all think? That's a good segue.
When you think,
what do you think about the media, politicians feeding us their stuff?
Are you saying the divide? Or let me understand what you were saying there, Dave. Are you saying you believe that the injustice and the racism, the privilege, that's what's blown out of proportion by media?
I'm saying that the media.
You're saying you don't believe it's as bad.
I believe it exists, but I don't believe it's nearly as much of a problem as the media and politicians like to feed us in order to keep us divided and thinking we're not the same. You know what I mean? They like to keep us thinking that like I said, they like us thinking, hey, I wonder if he thinks I'm a racist. Oh, I wonder if he's a racist. They keep the topic flowing perpetually in order to keep us thinking about it. So I don't think it's nearly as much of a problem as it was 50 years ago. That's for sure.
I think it's two different issues you're trying to talk about, because I believe that it is a huge issue. I think it is just as prevalent as today as it was in 1950. The difference is in 1950 it was in some ways today it's considered, it's more of a patriotic thing, right? But back then it was, in 1950 it was okay for you to be prejudiced, and the moral makeup of the country began to say that wasn't okay. So those that were still that way and that still raised their children that way, they simply went underground, and they weren't out being that way in public. And now, because of social media, we see those people for what they are. They are out in the public, no matter how subtle they try to say that that's the case or not. I wasn't raised like that. I was raised not to see color. If you have to say that, then you really need to do some self-evaluation. I think that the fact that we haven't addressed it
17.
and we haven't moved past it speaks volumes to who we are as a country and where we are as a nation, more so than whether it is being overblown by the media or not. I think it is extremely a huge issue, and sometimes it depends on where you live.
Yeah, that might be.
I live in a very small town, and there's no issue with me and Walter. And there's no issue with, it's more of a who's rich and who's poor there than it is, black, white, Hispanic, Catholic, Protestant, all of those different little things that we like, little places we like to put people in their own little boxes.
All those little labels.
In the little labels. But if you come to Lubbock, Texas, there's still the east side of Lubbock and the north side of Lubbock. And the east side of Lubbock is predominantly black, probably 85 or 90%. And even though Lubbock Independent School District goes for all of Lubbock, you will notice that the individual schools that are in East Lubbock, the magnet school has closed. The south side of Lubbock is where everybody that's rich lives, and their schools get the best stuff. Now, some of that ends up happening because the PTAs are a lot more active. But those PTAs are able to be more active simply because there's usually a one-income person over there in the family, and the other person is able to be much more active Whereas in East Lubbock, some of those people are working 2 jobs just to make ends meet, and they are lucky to get their child clothed and fed and to school, and have somebody else pick them up and them get to daycare until they get off from their second job. And so the PTAs aren't over there to do that same charitable work that is done over in South Lubbock. And the school district doesn't make up the difference. The school district doesn't try to change the way that things happen.
Yeah, I've heard. I know you went to college down there at Texas Tech, which is right there in Lubbock, so you got personal experience with that, I'm sure. Yeah, but I've heard some not too pleasant things about Lubbock and that community. Now, when it comes to that, I mean, we are kind of, because we're such a multicultural, neighborhood here in El Paso. You know, maybe it's probably has an influence on how I see the world. Definitely, when it comes to that situation. But I mean, even Evolve, he lives in the same neighborhood I do, just maybe a mile and a half away or so. And, you know, he has, you know, cops drive by and he's out cleaning up his front yard, and cop will stop and, you know, hey, everything all right? You know, I was like, wow, cops drive by my house all the time when I'm cleaning my front yard. They don't ever stop and ask me if everything's all right, you know? So it's just it's just interesting how that's that, you know, that.
I'm out in my front yard. They ask me, is everything okay? As if they got to if they got to make sure that, you know, this is my house, because, you know, they look, they're like, it's a pretty big house, so and you know, they want to see if I'm gonna run or what. Like, I'll be out in my front yard, but yeah, you know, but they, you know, to your point.
Can you imagine how that would be? I mean, that's El Paso. Can you imagine how it is in other places like Lubbock or, you know? So anyways, go ahead, Evolve.
And that's the thing, Dave, to your point and what you were saying, as far as you don't believe that it is as prevalent. I think, you know, I believe that you're kind of halfway right. In a way that you are right. I think it's always been, you know, each decade, it's always been here. It's always been like that. But we're so much, like, as times change, the things that we focus on has also changed. We have moved into this direction, you know, that everyone wants to. We're so much more aware of the injustice that these things are wrong. I mean, we are growing as species. We're growing not just I mean, when I say growing, I mean in our knowledge of, oh man, that ain't right. You know, it happened back with slavery. Slavery was the norm. If you didn't own the slave, you know, we talked about this. If you didn't own the slave, they're like, hey, you better get you one. You better get you one of them. And, you know, and it was the norm. And you were seen as and it was seen as like, what do you mean? Wait, who's gonna do the fields? You know, who's gonna do that? Wait, what do you mean you don't want to? So, but then we grew, you know, we grew in our intelligence, we matured, and we start to, hey, this ain't right. This ain't right. So I think that's the same thing now. It's not that it's not as it's always been a lot, but we put a more spotlight and you know, and there's a lot more awareness and on it. But yeah, it's definitely there. It's definitely, and the media, they're playing a role in that whole transformation, I guess, of the media. They're playing a role in that whole growth of America and kind of putting a spotlight, like, okay, this ain't right. So now everybody's looking, and where our eyes are open, and everyone can start to see that, man, that is not the norm. It's not the norm anymore. Yeah, we need to talk about this. We need to do something. We need to address it. Yeah, that privilege is not the norm. Maybe you shouldn't have that privilege. You know, we're woke. You know, We're woke now. So, and that's the thing. So it's not, but yeah.
Before we went out of time, I wanted to get a couple more things. I like asking this other question too. as we move on to Kerry, and it's if when you get elected to the U.S. Senate, what will be one of the first pieces of legislation that you would submit? Does the Senate submit legislation, or do you just take it from? No, the Senate can submit legislation. So, what would be a piece of legislation that you would submit as soon as you got into office, or something that you would support as soon as you got into office?
Well, I would support ending qualified immunity. That would be one of the first things that we would put forth. The other thing that we would put forth, along with things that are happening in the House on the Libertarian side, Elliot Shearman has talked about on the House side ending taxes taken out of overtime hours. So we would support the same thing happening in the Senate. So if you work overtime, your overtime hours are not taxed. In the same way,
he's got a huge standing ovation for that one, because it's not only right now. People don't realize right now, not only is your overtime taxed, but it's taxed more than your regular pay.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be. It would still be bad if they taxed it the same, but some people choose not to work overtime because they get so little, and it puts them in such a much higher tax bracket.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that we would look at is a bill that would allow veterans to go to doctors outside of the VA.
Mm-hmm.
So that individuals that live in Lubbock would not have to travel to Amarillo or or anywhere else. We'd also look to when we're ending the war on drugs, one of the first things we would do is make it so that veterans would not lose their benefits should they choose to partake in alternative medicine, especially for their PTSD or their pain. Most veterans don't do that, and that is one of the reasons, because of the opiate use and that we have a much higher suicide rate than we should.
That's what you just hit on right there is my number one priority. I was running for state senate before I made a mistake and got taken off the ballot. But my number one priority would be to end the restrictions on cannabis so that veterans can use it to treat their PTSD and treat their pain instead of opioids. Because a lot of the opioid overdoses is not due to suicide. It's due to pain. It's accidental suicide, if you want to call it that. But there has been numerous reports of veterans that have illegally used cannabis or marijuana. THC has to be in it, have used it in order to come off of the opioid addiction, and it treated their pain better than the opioids did without all the harmful effects and possible overdose issues and stuff. So that's why I'm a member of NORML, and I'm 100%. But I personally could care less about using marijuana myself. But I just see so many of my brothers and sisters of our brothers and sisters in arms, being killed because this plant is illegal.
Well, and just like with Joe, we talked about ending the wars, all wars, and bringing our servicemen home. That has to be. I know it sounds so horrible to say it like this, but we have to get with the experts in our armed forces to get those individuals home safely, and to just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to draw it down by 10,000 by this time. Just do it. We don't have to tell the world when it's going to happen, so that our servicemen are more vulnerable to attack as they're pulling out, or as they're leaving, or as we go to a smaller number day by day, but just make it happen.
Yes, 100%.
And I think that will do more to help the VA in some ways right now than other things that are happening. There are ways that we have to learn to work together and make sure that what we do is for liberty. And that has to happen not just from libertarians, but that has to happen from the Greens and the Democrats and the Republicans. And until they do that and they stop bickering over sacred cows and or political footballs, because sometimes they're the same thing, that they will actually move the country to where everybody not only has the same opportunity, but those opportunities aren't hindered because of where you're put into a box or where you're pigeonholed.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to start off the same. You might say the distance is the same in that race, but when there's roadblocks put up in front of you because you're a woman, then it is harder for you to get ahead. If there are roadblocks put up on you because of the housing department or because of the banking system, because you're a person of color, you do not have the same opportunities as other individuals.
Mm-hmm.
If there are roadblocks put up on you because you're gay and about adoption, then you do not have those same opportunities because of those roadblocks that are put up by regulations and by the government.
Yeah, Kerry, that leads me into a question. Dave, if you don't mind if I ask Kerry a question.
Go for it, man. That's what he's here for.
So it's one of the harder questions, but I want to know, what are you with regards to roadblocks? Because you what do you say? I would like to hear, but what are you going to say to those that are not going to, those Christians that are 100% not going to vote for you due to their biblical beliefs and far as same-sex marriage, and as far as what would you say to them that say, hey, I'm not voting for you. Hey, you're gay. It's not happening. So
I understand
what do
that,
you say to those, Roman?
I understand that, but the God I know is a God of love, not a God of hate.
This is true.
Okay.
Amen.
And if you expect me to legislate based on the fact of what I do in the bedroom, and you have not asked the other individuals that are running, who may or may not follow all the laws of the Old Testament, then I don't feel that it is wise of you, or that it is okay for you to hold me to those same laws.
Yeah, well, to be fair, they wouldn't be, and some of them, they wouldn't be judging based off of what you do in the bedroom, but it would be based off of what they feel, your morals and ethics and what you would vote on. They feel that it wouldn't be in line with them. So what do you, are those the ones that you kind of just wipe the dust off my feet?
So,
or is there a message with Satan?
Is there a message with what?
Or is there a message? I mean, I'm trying to see what would you because obviously you would not. It doesn't seem like you would get those people, but still there could be a message or something that you would say to those. I mean, because some may feel a certain way, but what would be that final message? Because I know that you would kind of just have to, at a certain point, you just kind of have to like wipe the dust off your feet and keep moving, because you're not going to get certain people, but still there is.
And some of those people are never, ever going to vote for you
right,
for whatever their reason is and however they choose to try to justify that. The last thing I would probably say to them is you can find no better advocate in the Senate than a libertarian for your religious freedom.
Okay.
So, because if you think that anyone else is going to not put their religion above yours, then think again, because libertarians will put forth and fight for your right to worship the way you want to, or your right to not worship at all, on equal footing with everyone else's right to worship or right to not worship at all.
So let me get this straight. As a gay man that's running for U.S. Senate, if you were elected into the Senate, then you would support the absolute freedom of any church that wanted to hate gay people all they wanted. If that's how they wanted to worship, then you would be okay. In other words, you're saying that you can hate me or not vote for me because I'm gay, but I'm still going to defend your right to do that.
Oh yeah, I mean that's your choice.
Don't
expect me to give money to your church, right? And don't expect me to be quiet about how bigoted and how much of a
absolutely
ass you are.
And that's absolutely the beauty of libertarians, is we all may have different beliefs and morals and ethics, and all we agree on is that the government shouldn't be using force in order to, force those beliefs or morals or anything on other people. So, and you just explained it perfectly like that.
Kerry, why do you feel? What do you think? Most African Americans, most Black people don't vote libertarian.
That's a good question.
Because they have been sold a bill of goods by the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party has done nothing but blow smoke and given them huge promises and delivered merely crumbs. If you look at it, it's almost like, as an African American, you're expected to vote Democrat, the same way as if you're if you're a gay man or if you're a member of the LGBT community, you're expected to vote Democrat because the Republicans are pushed on you as if they hate you and that they will never do anything for you, that they don't care about your community. And I'm not saying that that's not true. I'm just saying I don't know that the Democrats care any more than anybody else.
So how do you get that message if elected? How do you change that? How do you get that message to? I mean, what are you doing? What is the plan to raise that awareness to the African, to the Black community that, hey, this is the choice? I mean, how do you start to change that dialogue and that thought? I mean, what are you doing? Rather it's policy, rather it's being out there. I mean, what is your plans to change that way of thinking?
Well,
or if you even plan to change, I mean, first
stay in our own little world. Libertarians sometimes stay in their own little world. We stay in our own little comfort zone with our own little groups, just like everybody else does. We're not immune to that, right? We have to get out. We have to go to those urban development groups. We have to go to the NAACP organizations, to Luna, to the different organizations, and make them aware of who we are. We have to reach out to the leaders within those communities and say, is there any way we can speak? Can we at least tell you what we're about? And is what we're doing, is what we're talking about, does that resonate? Does that mean what we think it means? Is that a good plan? Is that a good change in the law? And then when we hear that it is, we can't simply say, it's great for us to end the war on drugs. That's awesome. But if we don't retroactive push back all of the penalties, and the only way that you can get a license to have a dispensary or to grow, as an example, cannabis, is if you have a clean record, well, that's great that we just let you out of jail for possession, and I'm sorry that you you can't come up with the $100,000 or the $1 million because you happen to be a person of color, and so all the licenses go to white individuals or white companies. Then we have further penalized communities of color even further after we simply just said that something was now going to be legal.
Another example of institutional racism.
And that is an exact example of institutional racism.
And
we have to look at, when we think of things that don't affect us personally, there are things that don't affect me as a white man, but there are things that affect me as a gay man. There are things that affect me as a person when I hear stories or when I meet people and I talk to them and we have conversations. So if I become aware of those things and I choose not to act on those things, then I am no better than the individuals that are continuing to do those actions to those same individuals or other individuals. So if I don't stand up and say that we have to end qualified immunity, then I'm saying that qualified immunity is okay. If I'm the person that doesn't stand up and say that it is not okay for gentrification in neighborhoods, so that individuals are being priced out of the market based on being poor, or individuals of color in certain neighborhoods in this country, if I know that that's happening and I don't speak out against it, then I am no better than those people that are doing it.
Yeah.
And so we have to form those coalitions. And sometimes those coalitions are going to be with people that we're going to fight with on other issues. And we have to learn that that's okay, because we have to get the good. We have to fight the good fight together when we can fight the good fight and get good done. And if we choose not to do that, then don't expect things to change and don't cry when they don't. But if enough people see our passion and our compassion, they will start to think, yes, that's somebody I could vote for. And if they think that, then they can tell their friends. And at some point, the wave will be overwhelming.
It's coming. It's been growing. Every election cycle, it grows. This wave of liberty, as people see more and more about how the Republicrats, as Spike Cohen likes to call them, are perfectly happy with the status quo. You know, anybody who wants change, I hope, is starting to realize that they're not going to get change from the Democrats or the Republicans. Real change lies in the Libertarian Party. So, you know, it's like the quote I just put up: all that evil needs to succeed is for good people to do nothing. I think it was Edmund Burke that said that, but I'm not 100% sure.
I think you're right, but I'm not going to go on the record of saying so. I would never go on record of saying that you're right about anything, but
appreciate that.
That was for you, the Evolve.
He said I was half right. I almost put that quote in the banner when Evolve said I was half right about something. So before we get out here, go ahead. Did you have something to say, Evolve?
No, I had another question. It was on the other terms. It was on the other spectrum. But if you can go ahead and wrap up. I wanted to just as a question. Rand Paul, he recently on today, I want to know, Kerry, if you had agreed. What are your thoughts on it? But recently he had stated that we should, because El Paso hospitals, they are apparently supposed to be full everywhere, and you know, soon there's going to be told dead bodies in the hallway or whatnot. But anyway, it's supposed to be really bad. But Rand Paul, he had suggested and he had said that we need to let me get this right. Let me bring it back up because I saved it and I wanted to hear, because I was going to post today to see if I wanted to hear his deal on it, but just to make sure, it had to do with those that are those that have already been have had COVID and have already survived it and are survived, that we need to use them to start to, they said, hire them as the nurses and the shoppers and he said we need to hire them back in the community and have everyone those that have tested and have survived, them are the ones that we need to put to work and have them to start working while everyone else kind of wait around. Let me bring back up his exact quote, but them was kind of his thoughts on. Let me give me a second here.
While you're bringing that up, I will let you know that an RN
Dave, if you're on, Dave, if you're on the computer, I'm sorry, you might be able to bring it up.
I'm looking for it. I'm not seeing it.
You might be able to bring it up. Yeah, if you just type in Rand Paul on Corona survivors. He just stated it on yesterday. Let me try the other phone. Let me see real quick.
What were you saying?
You can go ahead. I'll be able to bring it up.
I was gonna say that I think we can ask people to work. Them to work that have already survived. The question is I don't know, if they are still. I don't know enough about the virus to say whether they are still contagious or not. When they survive it, at what point are they no longer? Are they okay to just be out in public? So
okay, yeah, I found it right away. You just type in Rand Paul COVID survivors.
I mean, I don't know if I'd be comfortable going to the hospital if I knew everybody was there was at one point was positive, because my understanding.
Okay, so let me, Kerry, I'm sorry. Let me interrupt. That way you're on the same page. Let me correct myself because I do.
Okay, what did he really say?
He froze up again. Well, I wonder if you do realize that Rand Paul is a Corona survivor. So as soon as he comes back, I'll put Evolve back in here.
Maybe that's his way of saying that he can go back to work.
I'm seeing it on MSNBC, but they're trying to get me to do something here. 2 months after. This wasn't yesterday, though, was it? Don't you love it when they don't date their own articles? Mainstream media don't put a date on their own articles. We need to not be so presumptuous that we know everything. Perhaps our planners might think twice before they weigh in on every subject. Perhaps our government experts might hold their tongue before expressing their opinions. Oh, I'm not seeing what he's referring to. But he just dropped completely out this time.
Well,
but how do you feel about the government's reaction to this whole pandemic? That's another one I wanted to talk to you about. It seems to be the hot topic. Is we're asking all the politicians how they feel, about government's reaction to coronavirus.
So there's two things I've been saying since all of this started. One is they're damned if they do, and they're damned if they don't. Right?
So they should have just not.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if they lock everything down and then all the the amount goes way down, then everybody's going to say they did everything right.
Mm-hmm.
If they keep everything open and it goes up, they're going to say, well, they did everything wrong. I don't think the government has, and I bet the other thing I've been saying is the government is not in the business to determine who is essential and who is not.
Absolutely. That's a scary premise right there.
And if you think that's okay, wait until they say you're not essential, and then we'll see what you say. Because I think everybody's essential. I think we need to have guidelines, but not mandates. And guidelines are important because individuals, look, I wear a mask when I go out.
Mm-hmm.
I do. Because I know other people are at risk, and I might come in contact with someone who is sick, and I don't want to get sick. And there are people that, you know, I've also been saying if it took the coronavirus to tell you wash your hands after you go to the bathroom, or to cover your off, or to sneeze into a Kleenex or something, then we were in serious trouble. Okay.
Right?
If that's what it took, then, you know, and, you know, I don't know that we should go back to shaking hands anyway, since now that I see that everybody had to be told they had to wash their hands.
I know, right? I don't think everybody had to be told, but, you know, government, you know, doing something, you know, that's what they're doing, something.
Yes. I think that people going back to work is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know enough about the virus itself. I am not a scientist, so I have to rely on other individuals who are scientists to give me information. So what it comes down to is, should people who have already been sick be hired back? I think that's up to a business owner.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, I don't want to have to go into a business and say, okay, is everybody that works here tested negative? Did anybody here test positive? Is anybody back to work who was positive? I mean, I'm entering at my own risk going out in public. So I am at some responsibility myself just by going out in public. Now, I would like to know that business, you know, but I think when we go to the doctor's office or when we go to the hospital, we expect that we're going to run into somebody that is positive with COVID, just like we're going to run into somebody that is sick with something.
Yeah.
So I think it becomes that big, huge issue of are we going to go to this whole scarlet letter or pink triangle, yellow Star of David whole thing to where, you know, you have to wear your whole entire who you are on your chest so that people can either avoid you or get to know you. And I think that becomes a little sad.
Yeah, you're right.
That's just my opinion. I want to be free, and if I choose to go out in public and, you know, I'm just as likely to get salmonella poisoning if I go out to eat as I am anything else. Now, the salmonella poisoning may not kill me, but it could.
I'm just really, I don't know about you, but I'm just really shocked at the amount of power that everything from the federal to our local governments have. I never realized it until this pandemic, exactly how much power they've been collecting behind our backs for so many. In 1968, we had a flu pandemic that was deadly. I mean, 100,000 people died from it. But the government had absolutely no power to lock down or anything else. Matter of fact, Woodstock took place in the middle of that pandemic during that summer of 1968, which was one of the biggest concerts in history, took place during that pandemic, that flu pandemic. And the flu virus, by the way, is still around. It's one of the ones that kills the elderly every year, but it's just everybody's pretty much immune to it at this point. But you know, going from 1968 till now, the amount of power that the government has now is just frightening. I don't think people realize that. We're not as free as you probably think you are.
Well, I mean, at some point they're going to start collecting, our urine, our feces, because we use a public sewage system, and they're going to put things, out there to collect, and then it'll become and say, somebody in this household tested positive for this or that, and your house is quarantined, or you're under arrest because you took an illegal substance.
Yeah, really. Anybody that's watching probably thinks that sounds crazy, but absolutely not. They have that power right now. That's not conspiracy theory stuff. Like, they have that power right now. All they need, they can just use that as probable cause, because that is in the public system. They can use that as probable cause to go to your house and arrest you. They don't need to search. They don't need a search warrant for that.
If they didn't have the power before the Patriot Act, they definitely got it with it.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
What they didn't already have, they got with the Patriot Act, and that itself, while it wouldn't be seen by the average person to recall or repeal the Patriot Act, that would be a great service to Americans and individuals around the world.
Yeah. The biggest violation of our liberty on the books right now. And it has to be re-voted on like every 2 years, right?
Well, thank God it at least has to be re-voted on.
Yeah. You can literally, if you want to see who you should vote for, then just look who voted for the Patriot Act and don't vote for them.
Well, Kevin Hale talks about sunsetting. Everything should be sunsetted.
That's not a bad idea. It definitely make your job a lot busier as a U.S. senator.
Well, it would, but it also would mean that things aren't partisan as much, because you really would have to think about the well-being or the liberty of Americans, because if you're doing something that is just partisan based, the next time you're out of control and it comes up because it's going to either go away or be sunset, or have to be revoted on because it's got a sunset clause, it's going to automatically.
That's true.
They just won't have it go up for a vote. When it doesn't happen to have a vote, it would just end.
Mm-hmm. It's a good way to get rid of
things. There's a lot of things that could be changed, and people forget that our county sheriff, has far more power than just anybody else in our county, and that they can actually keep the feds from coming in and taking your property.
That's true. The sheriff has more power than the feds, because the sheriff is an elected position.
Yeah.
So
the only person that can arrest the sheriff is the county coroner.
The county coroner?
I think that's. I don't. Maybe I'm wrong. Surely not the dog catcher.
He could probably relieve him at least.
True.
Welcome back, Evolve. Is he back?
Yeah, I'm back.
You're still
Evolve.
You're frozen again now.
No, is he?
Yeah, he's frozen again. Well, either that or he's learned how to speak without moving his mouth.
Oh, okay.
So before we go, we'll see if Evolve found what he was looking for on Rand Paul. So what Penny Lane said was Rand Paul was saying that restaurants should hire survivors.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Restaurants.
Yeah. They said that Rand Paul was talking that restaurants should start just hiring survivors, and also have the have the survivors send meals to the elderly and work these homes and whatnot.
That's a good idea, though. It's a good idea.
I mean,
That was that was his suggestion. So
I'm wondering where he's coming with that, because are businesses not hiring individuals because they're survivors? Because there's some type of stigma there? I mean, I'm wondering about that.
True.
My other question was, if they are survivors,
right.
Because my understanding is once you test positive, you will always test positive because the antibodies are there. So Trump can't say that he was once positive and then is now not positive. He will always test positive. That came from a nurse friend of mine. Just so you know, I took her at her word.
Yeah, they did say 12 months. You can still test positive 12 months down the line.
Yeah,
that's what they said.
She said that it is for sure at least 8 to 12 weeks. So he hasn't been out of that.
Oh, probably it was 12 weeks. I think probably that's what I heard. Probably 12 weeks. Probably
so
wasn't months.
The thing becomes, if they cannot catch it again, which is not true, from my understanding is once you've caught it and survived, you can catch it again. Because, I think that's probably true. I don't know for sure because I'm not a scientist. I've not studied microbiology. So I wouldn't have a problem with it. The only reason I think he would be saying that if there was some type of stigma being placed or businesses refusing to bring back workers
I'll say this:
had tested positive or had been sick.
I mean, he's doing exactly what government should do, though. He is giving good advice. You know what I mean? I mean, he's advising the public to do something that would be beneficial to it. I mean, that's a whole lot better than mandating shutdowns.
I don't know what he's basing that on. I mean, he's an ophthalmologist, but
right.
And it doesn't mean that he doesn't know the other, but is he getting some other knowledge as a member of Congress that we're not getting to be able to say that statement? And how is that statement playing? Why is he saying that statement? What is the purpose?
It's a good point.
Because if there's somebody somewhere has had to refuse to hire somebody who was a survivor, for him to say that.
Yeah, that's
or somebody is saying we can't allow this to happen because there will be sick people working there and people will get sick. And so he's saying a remedy to that is to just hire everybody who's already a survivor. And then you don't have to worry about them because they're no longer contagious. So they won't get other individuals sick.
Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, they'll block people from getting other people sick. That's herd immunity.
If they can, in fact, not get sick again, which my understanding is they can.
Mm-hmm. Their bodies really kill the virus. So the antibodies will kill the virus when it comes into contact with them. So
correct. They will have a lesser. I guess they'll have a less. It's sort of like when you get the flu. Then if you get the flu, I don't know about y'all, but if I get the flu, I always end up giving it to Walter, and Walter always ends up giving it to me again after I've gotten well. Right? So I get it twice. But the thing is, the second time around is not nearly as hard on me as the first time was.
Ah, okay, I see. Yeah. So because you have immunity to it.
I mean, I hate to say it. I can say that if he has some type of knowledge I don't have and giving that advice, and it's good medical advice, and that's awesome. I think it's awesome economic advice. But he should go more.
So this is from the Daily Beast. I guess this is from the Daily Beast, and just quoting them on a recent rally. yesterday in Virginia. Ram, can't hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. The Daily Beast. Yeah, we got you. Good quality journalism. Go ahead, Evolve.
Yeah, well, it's the Daily Beast. They're just quoting from his rally. It's just quotes from what he said from his rally. Actually, you can pull it up on every. I just typed in Rand Paul coronavirus. You'll see everything. I'm not sure what you did not type up, but this is what he quoted. He just said that if I own a restaurant, I'll have a whole wing for senior citizens or for anybody who is worried about getting sick. And I would say all my servers have already had it, Paul told the crowd. If I had a cruise ship, everybody on my cruise ship would have had the affection that worked on the boat. So he's saying he would only hire, and then he said, he goes on to say, I've done had it. I can't get it again, Paul said. I can't give it to you, and I can't get it. So our restaurants should be full of COVID survivors. Or his quote.
Well, why do restaurants? I mean, is that because restaurants are what they're saying can't open back up in Kentucky?
Yeah.
I mean, is he trying?
That's true.
He's trying to play to a base of restaurant owners in Kentucky that they should be able to open back up, and then he's trying to say that the government should put a stipulation that they can only hire COVID survivors. Well, that means that. So what you're saying is, if I have protected myself and I have done everything that I was supposed to do, and I've been working, but I haven't gotten sick, that now I can be penalized without getting a better paying job or a job if my company does get closed down because I haven't gotten sick, because now the government is going to pick and choose where I can work based on my medical history.
Yeah. He's. I'm reading something about the article here, and they're talking about, what about reinfection and stuff. Okay. So we're going to start talking about, we're worried about reinfection. So if we're going to start worrying about reinfection, at some point, this pandemic has to end. Okay. This has to go away. So, I mean, that's what they're combating. What Rand Paul was saying is, he would dedicate a whole wing. He would put only people who have been infected and survived, put them in there serving the elderly and stuff. And then, so they're saying, well, what about, then they give, of course, how mainstream media is. They give this one example, a case study released and showed that a 25-year-old man in Nevada contracted COVID-19 twice. This one guy, he got it twice. So that I guess means that, it's possible for everybody. So, but, if we're going to start talking about reinfection and how antibodies, how long antibodies would last after the infection, at some point, you're going to have to give up the goat, and we're going to have to move on from this and just accept the fact that it's going to be here, and we're going to have to live with it and go back to our normal lives, unless we want to just go into this totalitarian society and let government run our lives forever. So
I think some people would love that.
It seems like it.
Those that are in control. I don't think the government should be dictating to us who we can hire or dictating what jobs you can have based on your medical history. Now, with that said, people are going to say, well, Kerry, you have to get tested for TB for a lot of jobs. Well, yeah. I'm not saying that private businesses can't pick and choose who they hire based on people's, whether they're infectious at that given moment. But it just...
Government gets you get out of it.
It seems like we move way into another sector, even now another sector where the government is controlling our lives. one more spot.
Yeah.
And I just think that, you know, at some point we've got to decide, you know, we're just going to stop fighting for liberty and we're just never going to have it again, or we're going to have to say enough is enough. And, you know, this is the line in the sand, not this time. And then start working to regain all the liberties we've lost. And, you know, you either want to be part of that fight or you don't, you know?
Yep. You just came back full circle to what you said in the beginning. You know, I'm going to keep running for office as long as they still let me, you know, and you know, how long that's going to be before they stop us, before they shut the libertarians down completely is really up to the American public. You know, our survival is basically based on them. And I honestly think that their survival is based on us. You know, you know, we need each other, believe it or not. And they don't realize who the real enemy is. You know, and hopefully more and more people will wake up every election cycle to that. So before we go,
that doesn't mean that there aren't people that are in both of those parties that aren't fighting the good fight, because there are. The problem is they are far more outnumbered, and they do not speak with a loud, bold voice.
Well, they're also squashed by the old authoritarians like you know, Mitch McConnell, like Nancy Pelosi. Basically, that's what people don't understand. Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi probably have more power than the president when it comes to legislation and stuff. But when it comes to what happens in this country, why do you think we haven't got another stimulus package? It's not because of the president. It's because of Nancy Pelosi. You know, and before
the money's not there because the money wasn't there for the first one.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. They're just going to print more and throw it over in a helicopter, I guess. Here's your money. Right. But speaking of like old timers and stuff, so how do you feel about? I want to go through your opponents. How do you feel about? We'll start with the incumbent, John Cornyn. But by the way, I know there's some libertarian-leaning Republicans here in town. I won't say any names, that are definitely voting for you and not voting for Cornyn. So they don't see him as pretty loving.
I would just say that Cornyn is not for your right to defend yourself by any means necessary, period. He thinks that those restrictions are good, and by somehow miraculously having more restrictions, that individuals that want to do harm are going to follow the rule of law just because you make a new law or because you restrict whatever it happens to be. I don't think that Cornyn, maybe since he's been elected, has ever not towed the party line. I don't think he's ever really been for Texas. I think it's really he's been for himself and for the GOP.
Yes, you nailed it right there. Ted Cruz, on the other hand, the other senator in Texas, he's butted heads with the GOP a few times at least. But yeah, I have to say that Cornyn is definitely the man for the party over principle. Yeah. Absolutely. And what about MJ, the motorcycle riding Air Force veteran, combat veteran, MJ Hager?
Look, the only thing that I can say about MJ Hager is she just comes across as ungenuine. And the reason I say that is because I think she is just spouting talking point after talking point after talking point, and I have not seen any real plan put forward of what she's going to actually do. Now, I've looked at some of her other things. She has some things that she wants to talk about, but she has not really spoken to individuals of color. She's not spoken to the LGBTQ community or GSM community. she has basically talked about healthcare. And that's where she has really put her bread and butter into that faction right there. Cornyn saying that he was going to shut down private selling of firearms kind of nipped her whole anti-gun thing in the bud that she was going to try to put forth, or that the Democrats were going to put forth.
We're all on the same side.
Look, I think Royce West would have been a far better candidate for the Democrats. And what was that look for?
From Evolve? Yeah, I don't know. That's like somebody shining a light in his eyes or something.
Oh no, my light came on. It just busted on my light,
like
and I was like, oh.
Look,
we thought you were MJ.
The Democratic Party is pretty evenly divided when it comes to those that supported MJ Hager and those that supported Royce West. Just as much as those that supported Bernie and any other candidate. And I've gotten more phone calls or more emails or more texts from Democrats asking me to drop out of the race because I'm costing MJ Hagar the win. And I'm like, because Democrats see her as a former Republican who is being financed by outside of the state, and really basically attacked the integrity of Royce West in the primaries, especially in the runoff. So they didn't really like that. They didn't really like the what had happened there. And Royce West, she has not called Royce West, and he has not called her. So, but Stovall hasn't called Cornyn either. So there's that. There's that other factor. I just think that both of them are pale Texans. I'll just say that to me, they don't represent who Texans really are. They don't represent the individual liberty for all, that fight for our liberty. So they don't stand for that. This is the line in the sand, whether you believe me or agree with me or not. This is the line in the sand that is about our freedom.
Mm-hmm. That Lone Star mantra.
They just don't get that. And it is very much, I only represent a portion of the state. I only represent a portion of the state.
Yeah, that's true, man. I mean, the libertarians really represent that Lone Star mantra, that independence, Well,
and even when we win on election day, whatever that happens to be, I can guarantee you that we will be we're not going to go back on our principle of individual liberty for all.
We can't.
Right?
You can't. If you were to do that, the libertarians would tear you to pieces.
But what I mean is we're not going to do that. Any libertarian, I would assume any libertarian that would get elected would not do that. We're also going to be for all Texans. And we're going to represent the party as a whole, but also represent the state as a whole. And somebody from, somebody from the national party is not going to come in and say, Kerry, we want you to do this, this, and this. It's going to be, A, how is it libertarian? B, how is it good for the nation? And C, how is it good for Texas? And not necessarily in that order.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way it is. And I think that's sometimes why Texas libertarians stand out a little bit from some of the other libertarians across the nation is because, we have a little, and I'm not saying that there aren't great libertarians across the nation. God forbid somebody say I said that, right? It just seems like, we're going to be like more about our state is going to be in part of that mix. The people of our state are going to be part of that mix, as opposed to, towing the party line.
Yeah, it's not hard to toe the Libertarian Party line as long as you can put libertarian principle behind it. Then you've towed the line. You know what I mean?
And
as long as you can,
but you're exactly right. We say that it's super easy to toe the Libertarian Party line because it's all about principle.
Mm-hmm. It kept me out of politics for the longest time, being a libertarian, because I always thought it was so complicated. And I got to pay attention to Milton Friedman, and I got to read these books by Ron Paul and Ayn Rand, and I was just way too much to just be in libertarian stuff. And then I finally just woke up one day, and I was like, no, it's just about individual liberty. It's about getting government out of your business and just being free, being responsible for yourself, accepting that responsibility, and demanding that government leave you alone. It's really that simple. It's like a tweet I did the other day. I was like, the one bad thing about having libertarians running our government is you wouldn't be able to blame government for everything anymore.
Well,
all you're going to be able to do is, because they didn't do this. Well, they don't have to. That's your job as an individual, as a person. The government should be doing this. The government should be helping the poor. No, you should be helping the poor. If you think that the poor need to be helped, you help the poor. It's so easy. It's too easy to be a libertarian.
Well, and we say that, and yes, you should be helping the poor if you think that the poor should be helped. The problem is the government often stands in the way of you actually doing that.
Yeah.
And because they stand in the way, so many individuals think the only way that we can help the poor is through the government.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's the whole indoctrination process too, where people just think that we can't live without government. I mean, I've been in, because it was like I was in an argument, Facebook argument with a guy from Rutgers University, philosophy major from Rutgers, very liberal university, and he was just saying how government has done so much to, like, they use your tax money to boost the economy, and they've had all these great systems. And all I said was, tell me one. Give me an example of where the government took tax money and built some kind of economic development thing, and it actually paid the taxpayers back, where the taxpayers actually got paid back. I mean, got their money back from that investment, as the politicians always like to call it. We're going to invest our money here, or invest your money there, or invest here, where that investments always pay back. That's the thing about an investment. So when do we get paid back? And he couldn't say it. He's like, well, you got paid back when the economy grew for the city. And I'm like, well, that's not an investment. An investment's when I get paid back. You took my money and somebody else got paid for it, not me. So he was dazzling with his vocabulary, and I was dumb with my logic.
Sometimes that happens,
But generally speaking, he, at the end of the day, I just agreed to disagree with him, and was like, what kind of ended it for me whenever he said that all libertarian economists were baseless hacks, that none of their philosophies were worth anything, and that they're not taught in any reputable universities, or anyway. And I was like, you're talking about at least 2 Nobel Prize winning economists. You're saying they're not taught at universities. so yeah, that's the stuff.
Well, it depends on exactly what he's trying to say is taught. I mean,
I guess economic philosophy, I guess.
I would think that they would be mentioning economic philosophy. Even if they were wrong, even if they were proven wrong, they would be mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, you have to mention them to try to debunk their
right.
economic theories, which have absolutely never. I know Milton Friedman and F.A. Hayek have never been debunked. I mean, they've never showed that any of their principles, their economic principles, would not work. Most of them are used today, at least in successful corners of the economy. So Hayek kind of went off the deep end on some stuff, though, but it's interesting. Any final words before we get going here? I appreciate all your time.
I appreciate you having me on. I just say, if you want to learn more, you can go to McKinnon2020.com. That's the website. And
I had that up.
Did you have it up?
I know I have a banner. I thought, wait, there it is. I knew I had a banner that was already ready to go.
Other than that, if you vote for us, we appreciate it. If you want to get involved in your county, you can do that by contacting the Libertarian lptexas.org. If you want to get involved in El Paso County, you can always get involved there as well.
You can contact me. I am the county chair for the El Paso County Libertarian Party.
You have that own personal plug yourself there.
Yeah.
Look, if you believe that you should govern yourself, and that you believe in self-ownership, and that the government should not tell you what to do, as long as you are not infringing upon someone else's liberties, you're probably a libertarian. So check us out. Do your research. Figure out where you are in the spectrum of what you believe and what you think is right. And don't belittle anyone else because they think differently. And vote. Well, just vote once, because you're only allowed to, I should say. I'm going to vote 3 times because I said vote.
Yeah, you're going to be careful with that now. I appreciate it. Once again, I'm Libertarian Dave. Let me put my I have a banner here somewhere. Here's mine. If you're still watching, you can follow me on Twitter. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel here. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs so I can actually have a community tab on my page. So I got a Cashapp if it's in your heart to donate. I appreciate anything we get, even if it's a quarter or $1. It don't matter. It just tells me that you cared enough to open your wallet. And I appreciate that. I really appreciate Kerry coming on. I had a city council candidate. Then I had the state Senate candidate that I was running against. She came on, and so I keep moving on up. So I tell you what, you got my word right now. I'm hitting up Spike Cohen next and see if I can get him on here.
And he probably will if he's not busy.
He probably will. I bet. Well, if by some freak of nature, Spike is not busy getting ready to be Vice President of the United States after November 3rd, I bet you I can get him after that.
Check your messenger.
Check my messenger.
Because Coach sent you something.
He sent me something. Oh, he did. He says, he said, tell Kerry I had to run, phone issues and dying. Evolve said it was great to meet him, and thank you so much for your time and transparency. Seem like you have a strong passion for change and know what you're running for. So he wishes you the best. So that's from Evolve. I guess he's
that sounds like high praise from him.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he is he will try to he's going to get you to talk about something you may probably not be comfortable talking about, so and that's just what because he wants to see who you really are. And I knew, and I told him ahead of time, I was like, you can hit Kerry up about whatever you want. He's not going to have it's just, I challenge him every time. We're libertarians. We are so comfortable with who we are. You got to be comfortable with who you are to be a libertarian. Well,
and I don't care what anybody asks me. I'm either going to tell you, and sometimes I'll even say, look, I don't know the answer, but from what I do know, and I don't have all the information, this is it. But other than that, it's pretty much, I've had people ask me, if this is my real hair color.
Isn't it gray? This is kind of fuzzy right now.
And I'm going, yeah, because, I'm not a millennial. I don't have all this. I don't get all the new technology that comes out. I'm old school. When my stuff breaks down, that's when I get something new. Okay. But yeah, the gray in there is not on purpose. I didn't put it in there to make me look wiser. It's there because, I'm old. I'm 50 plus.
I had to grow my beard out in order to look my age because I can't get any gray in my hair. So
yeah, whatever.
So, hey, I was going to tell you though, when my beard grows up, it wants to be like yours.
I don't know. There's some libertarians that have a much better beard than I do.
Yeah, Vermin's got a pretty healthy one.
Him, Tom Arnold.
Oh yeah, Tom Arnold.
There's a lot of good beards out there that libertarians have.
We have I have matter of fact, Vermin is gracing my dad bod calendar. The libertarian. Oh, you weren't at National Convention. These were going around at National Convention. The Libertarian Dad Bod calendar. Let me show you who's on the cover for October. It's quite the October is quite interesting. That's the October cover there. So that's Vermin. I don't know if Spike's in here or not. Oh, this is a good one for November too. This is what I get to look at for the whole month of November.
Who the hell is that?
National chair. So, but it's the so we got a dad bod calendar. We should have a libertarian beard calendar.
Well, you know that outright libertarians are doing a drag calendar.
Oh yeah, that's right. They were advertising.
I said that they could use me if they got the donations for it. But I'm not shaving my beard. He's going to have lipstick and eyeshadow on top of his beard.
Right? You know who's going to win that one anyways. What's his name from California?
Who?
Oh, always Star Child. Yeah, always dressing up. I knew it was Star.
People have to vote for the top 12 with their dollars.
Oh yeah,
because it's a fundraising vote.
Star Child would still win.
Well, if he gets enough money,
it's Star.
I don't expect to get enough money. Not enough people are going to vote to see me like that.
All right.
I mean, I'm a big boy. I don't want to,
But that was the thing back in the day. When we were doing our the national convention, the online portion was, everybody like, what's Star Child going to be wearing today? So he's a great guy. The first time I ever
and he
talked
was on the phone. He couldn't even. I mean, at least I've got some type of decent technology.
Oh yeah, he is definitely anti-technology. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's going to be spreading the word for himself. Somebody else will have to be doing it.
Yeah, that's for sure. He's a good guy, though. I talked to him at National. He's really cool. Really good people.
There's a lot of great people in the party. There are. there's quite a few individuals that forget that we need to figure out the things that we're fighting for and focus on those instead of the things that we don't agree on.
You know, I think at national, I've seen that, but I tell you what, LP Texas is on point with, I mean, we have our little tiny factions, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we're LP Texas, you know what I mean? And it's impressive. This party, this state party is really, I'm proud to be part of this state party. I mean, it's definitely on point. I mean, we elected for the first time in history, we elected our state chair without objection. I mean, people understand that. We didn't even vote. In other words, everybody just said, yep, her. That's amazing.
Well, I mean, you know, sometimes it's a popularity contest. Sometimes it is a skill contest, who has the skills to do the job. And you know, Whitney didn't have to worry about somebody challenging her based on her skills.
Oh yeah.
Or challenging her that was more popular. Whitney's pretty popular in the state. And so, you know, I mean, it would have been, now was not the time for anybody else that, you know, has thought about doing that, to put somebody up against her. You know, now, depending on how she does over the next 2 years, they can or cannot. But I think Whitney's going to do a fabulous job.
Oh yeah, I think so too. She's already on it. I was getting some messages from her today looking for which one of us county executives have ballot board access. You know, I guess going to help us out with that. So I mean, she's all over it. So
yeah, she wants to grow the party and grow it the right way, and not just. I don't want to say that sounds so bad sometimes. Grow it the right way, but I mean, with people that are going to be dedicated and actually do the jobs that they're supposed to do in those counties and in those positions that they put them in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a way to keep people from being burnt out.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I just got an email today from a new person asking about the El Paso Libertarian Party, and every time I get one, I get excited. I'm like, there's just, you know, the more people. Because it does. I mean, you know, when I first started doing this back in March as the county chair, I mean, there was 4 people at my county convention that elected me as the county chair, and then all 4 of them, except for my wife, disappeared. So it just vanished. And this is an election year. Well, one of them
sadly passed away.
Yeah, well, yeah, my predecessor passed away. I mean, that was sad. But I mean, right after the convention, it was just like, you know, the former chair, he was like, you know, I'm dealing with some stuff. I'm not going to be able to help you. And then, you know, the other people just, I mean, I was sending them emails, I'm texting them, and I'm just getting nothing. You know, one person was still helping me out. She was the other delegate, Carly Jackson. She was the other delegate. Yeah. She was helping me out. And she still does whenever I need something, she's there for me. So, but she's moving to Santa Fe, New Mexico. So, you know, I'm losing her too. But, you know, I'm getting some new people in. Some
people want to be involved in the day-to-day things that happen in the county. Some people want to be involved in the election part that happens in the county and in the districts. Some people want to be involved in just when the convention happens.
Yeah.
You got to find out where each person fits in their own little area, and be thankful and grateful that they're there in their own area, and know that, you know, you still need to call Joe and tell Joe what's going on, because Joe wants to know. He's just not going to be involved until convention and convention only.
Yeah.
You know,
figure that out.
It's hard to figure it out because you don't want to piss them off, you know, so that they don't show up and they don't want to be involved anymore. But, you know, I always just phrase it as, just for your information, this is what's going on this month in Hell County, or this year, or this week, or whatever.
That's true. I'm gonna so was I going to ask you about?
You know, we're still live, right?
Yeah, I know. I should probably end this thing since we're just talking.
I mean, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I just whip and talk.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes, you know, I it's not that party business is secret, because it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, we're pretty transparent. It's just that, you know, if we happen to mention somebody's name, you know, I want to make sure that we're respectful.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just I was something about just, you know, you know, I like that Becca and Whitney, our chair and our vice chair at the state level. I mean, they really are focused. I know, you know, I think, you know, they're really focused at building counties, you know, and I think that was one of the big emphasis they gave at convention. I think also, though, you know, I think we had an opportunity. I saw a surge at the beginning, like in you know, March through probably September even, of people that were interested in getting information about that. And then it kind of died off. I think as the election really heated up, people got kind of like, okay, and backed off of it. But I think after the election is over, I think we'll get another surge as people, you know, move on beyond the election. And then, you know, hopefully we'll be able to get some more people in, at least locally. I'm really starting from scratch here in El Paso. So I'm hoping.
And once I don't think that she's found a membership coordinator yet. So once she finds a membership coordinator, every time that someone expresses interest in the national party or the state party, and they say they're from El Paso County, you'll get an email about it.
Oh yeah, that would be great. Well, I'm getting emails. The email I got, I was trying to look for it, but I think it's because I was trying. I always forget exactly. Well, you know how the county emails go. It's like, it's county, like mine is El Paso LP.
El Paso at lptexas.org. Yeah.
So El Paso at lptexas.org. So if anybody out there's watching in Texas, you just type in your county name at lptexas.org. That's your email address to your county, your county chair or county coordinator for LP, for your Libertarian Party in your county. So
if your county is not organized, it will go to the county coordinator for the whole state.
Yeah. Well, either way, somebody will get back with you.
I mean, I'm just so you know, we want you to send those emails, and we want you to contact. This is the last 7 days of the election.
Yep.
Most people are going to be slammed with stuff that they're doing, and so if they don't get back in touch with you, you know, don't expect a real fast turnaround, especially when so much is going on.
Yeah,
but they will get back in touch with you, I promise. I'm fixing to lose electricity.
Uh-oh. Yeah, we got a storm going on.
Well, I have a snow thunderstorm coming through.
Oh boy, we had a snowstorm here in El Paso.
Let me see if I can. I don't know that I can. Can you see that, or is it?
Oh yeah,
you might not can see any of it. Maybe it's too. It might be too dark.
It's dark, but I can see some clouds.
Yeah, there's snow on the ground.
So how far are you out from El Paso?
Oh shoot, man, I'm in the Panhandle.
Oh wow, you're way up there. We got snow all the way down here though, so I can imagine you got some snow up there.
Yeah, it's 22 degrees.
Yeah. All right, Kerry. You know, I see you talk to you all night about liberty, but I got to get going, get some dinner, and put my kids to bed. So,
me too. I'll talk to you later,
man. Best of luck next Tuesday. I'll be doing a 24-hour stream next Tuesday, so you can come back on then and say hi.
I'll do my best.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
Have a great night.
Love you. Have a good night, man.
You too.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much. We ran a little bit late. I apologize for that. I got, I did. I thought I did. Thought I had a scripture. It's been a long one. Hey, I appreciate everybody. I hope you enjoyed the cast, the interview with our U.S. Senate candidate for Texas, U.S. Senate candidate from Texas. He will be on your ballot if you are in Texas. Kerry McKennon. He's running against MJ Hager and John Cornyn, are the Democrat and Republican respectively. Go out and vote for him. Go check out his website, McKinnon2020.com. Check out your other libertarians. If you got a race that you want me to look at, shoot it to me. These are good people. It's really what I wanted you to see, is that libertarians are good people they really care. And I hope if anything you got from this interview with Kerry is that you see that the libertarian candidates really do care. They care about you. They care about the issues and the policies and what's going on in our communities and stuff. So, appreciate y'all watching. Don't forget to love your neighbor, and KIP, keep it positive. Peace.